There it is.
Hey everyone.
What's up? It is Sunday? It's Sunday,
Yes,
I think.
it is Sunday.
It's been a busy few weeks, for me anyway. How about you?
Yeah, pretty busy. Working on a bunch of stuff. I got my day job, got my family, and then whatever time I have left, typically, 9 p.m. to midnight, I kind of do my movie thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
It's
I
kind of
play
crazy.
Arc
I
Arc
think
Raiders.
about how you cram in the various. Dude, I should have gotten myself a coffee. Now I'm like jealous. I'm looking at it, I'm like,
Such glory.
I mean, I could pause this and just go get water or something, but no. The way that we do things is crazy. Like, okay, we have this time and this window, and okay, this is how we're gonna be productive, right? And squeak in a half an hour editing here and half an hour to an hour of music ideation there. It's just, I think it's the only way. It's the only way as middle-aged human beings with family obligations and stuff that we're actually gonna ever produce any kind of art, you know?
Yeah, I think so. It's like trying to build something into the future and doing it in a very like meticulous long-term way. And not everyone can do that.
Sustainable, right? Like a sustainable way. I mean, would it be cool to take 6 to 8 weeks and film a narrative on a set and a location and everything? Sure. But
Yeah.
it's incredibly disruptive, and it's not how I built into this whole thing. And quite frankly, I like the flexibility of how we are able to do things. So I think it's pretty awesome.
Well, for those listening out there who don't know, so Tim and I, the last horror feature film that we did, the director's cut's called Exorcism of Fleete Marish, but that set was, the last narrative feature film I made, and that was like, I think it was 11 days. I think it was 10 days in a row.
Did you do pickups one day?
We
right?
did
You went back-
pickups. Yeah, like a month later when we recovered, we did pickups with like Lee and John Gorman and Dick Bolin. We got like a sexy shot of the car that was like the sheriff's car. We got like a lot of the insert horror effects because there's a monster in the movie and it gets tortured. And so like we basically planned it out where we were going to get like the more wider shots. We got some close-ups, but for actual like showing a close-up of like the monster having like damage to its flesh, that we did up in close-ups. We did like a month later. So, but anyway, I bring that up just to say like we were in our early 30s?
Yeah, we're talking now 2012, I think it was.
Yeah.
That we did that shoot.
2011 maybe we shot it. 2012 it came out.
Yeah. God, that was like almost 15 years ago.
Yeah. So essentially, you're talking, you got a little more, I think endurance can do those 10, 12-hour shoots. I don't know if we ever went really 12 hours. I'm not sure if we ever did, but they were definitely long days,
Yeah. Well, you knew the days were long or the days were arduous when the morale on set dropped. I tried my best to mitigate that with, sounds like everybody's hungry. Let's fire up the grills and make some food, It's just one of those things.
You were a really positive force. John Gorman was another one. I tried to stay pretty upbeat. Debbie Rochon, who starred in the film, was really, really positive too. And she tried to make sure everyone was like, she had, I remember on the, I had a speech in the beginning. I was like, it's going to be really hot. Let's try to be positive. And she was like, well, she goes, you have to lead the example. And I was like, yeah, fair enough. Yeah. So it was like,
yeah,
it's true. Like, so, yeah. So anyway, looking back, really good memories, even though like emotionally, I still have access to how hard it was. It's a weird thing, the way memory works, but I still think, God, I don't know if I could do another narrative feature that way.
Yeah.
Well,
we were super lucky in that my mother-in-law and her property was where we did everything. And there was a significant excess of space where people could stay that wouldn't interrupt with the actual scenes and the places that we were shooting. So there was like a various buildings. Like there was places where people were staying, and we were able to do all the makeup prep and everything there. There was a whole lake there, so at the end of the day, people could jump in there and just cool off because it was June. So,
Yeah.
I think that's when we shot it, June or July or
I think so.
yeah.
Yeah.
So even in Connecticut, that was
It might have been
pretty hot.
August, but whatever,
Yeah. Well, that's the worst time in Connecticut.
Oh, but I mean, we really couldn't ask for more for location. I mean, the place had everything, had a sort of big lodge area where we could do the, primary shooting for indoors and even there were room. I mean, it was structures with rooms and, full-fledged amenities. And so I was actually able to bring my iMac there. That was the first set where I could bring my iMac, and I got when my grandma, essentially, I got an inheritance and I bought an iMac with it. And so I was actually able to start capturing the footage. We're still using the Canon H1, which required us to capture footage, but I could capture it to back up the day, which was a really good feeling that there was redundancy. And then I did things like experimented with, like, we shot a lot of stuff day for night. Like,
Right.
We couldn't bring that many lights into the woods, if any. And so we shot all day for night. And so we shot all that stuff. And then that night I was able to bring the image into post and do a day for night. Back then, everything was manual. I wasn't using LUTs. I was so manually color grading. And I was like, okay, this is going to work. So it was like we had the progression of tools to that point had, it was significantly more advanced by the time we got to that shoot as compared to like mid 90s,
Yeah, even like London Betty or any of the precursors. I mean,
Yeah.
those were like tape to a digital conversion, right?
Yeah.
Or they were digital tape, but you still had to convert analog to digital.
Yep.
In the capturing process,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Was it the same with Mark of the Beast / Exorcism?
Yeah, well, actually, Greg Kistner had his camera too as a second camera. We'd do slow motion with that one, and he got a ton of B-roll, which helped out. And that was card based.
Okay.
So yeah, it was right between,
Yeah. Oh, like a SD, one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was like a flash device. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just like kind of pre SD, where SD could be used for like higher end stuff like 4K footage and stuff like that. So
now the camera we have now, how much does that capture? Like on one?
Oh my God, you can get I have a 250 gig SD card, and I can shoot 4K ProRes all day with that. And I have a battery mount that has 3 batteries in it, and that will last the whole day. I could literally walk around with that camera the whole day and shoot. It's we used it a little bit on this 30-minute pilot Tim and I did together.
Yeah, the one last summer.
Yeah, but and we did use it for American Expendables, and technically some of the stuff from Video Dreams was shot on that, some of the Lloyd interviews and stuff like that. So we have used it sporadically, but I still look at that camera. I was like, there's so much potential with that, There's still so much we can do,
Yeah, because I mean that was a huge factor in the past. It was capturing footage and storage. Think about 4K. It's an enormous amount of information in a very short period of time.
Yeah. Now they're bragging about I think Blackmagic's has like full sensor 8K. They're bragging about 8K now.
At what point do you think that's cost prohibitive and memory prohibitive of the amount of capture of information? Like, at what level of information is like, really?
It always seems to the technology in the space always seem to chase each other, right? Like the cameras become more elaborate, the file sizes become more elaborate, and then that chases the hard drive space and the dollar amount there. It always seems to, you always seem to end up paying money. But yeah, for shooting on 4K though, I mean, my argument has always been 35 millimeter motion picture film, which is my favorite looking film. I mean, although 70 millimeters pretty spectacular, and VistaVision's cool too. The resolution, although it's whatever silver deposits, it's somewhere between 2.5 and 4K. So if you're going above 4K, that's good and everything, but you're no longer really in the emulating 5 millimeter cinema. Maybe you're getting closer to 70 millimeter cinema if you're doubling that. So maybe that is more like 8K. And there's a case to be made for that. But I always thought I always felt that was a bit overkill,
Yeah. Because I mean, what we capture here is 4K, and the end result of that is gorgeous. Now, I mean, from a movie perspective, even a finished movie, there's all sorts of filters and everything on it to make it look cinematic.
Yeah.
And everything. And you're always going to have that, right? No matter what level of capture you have and the actual information that you grab. But the big thing to take away from the better level, standard definition versus 4K is that with more information, you can do more things, right?
Yeah, you can zoom into shots and with 8K, my God, you could turn a wide into a close-up. It's crazy, cropping into the image. But I mean, lenses are super important. So we both have decent webcams now. I purchased this webcam, and it's the sensor in it is closer to, it's like a cell phone style sensor, which means in modern terms, that's actually pretty decent. It's going to look okay. It's not like a mirrorless sensor. It's not like a Micro Four Thirds or a full sensor. And then the lens is not a super high end expensive lens. So there's going to be a flatness to it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be something that's less cinematic, and you can compensate with various filters. And I was showing Tim some of the way I treated our podcast footage and the cut I'm doing of this new doc we're working on called Enter the Television. I'm adding vignettes. I'm adding LUTs, Kodak film LUTs, to try to make it look more cinematic. And
yeah. The neat thing about that is it's a trick on the available footage too, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot to be said about the work and the efforts being done currently, contemporaneously, about historical footage, specifically in the 70s and 80s, where there's film stock and there's video stock or whatever that's starting to degrade, and literally going back in time to see some of that stuff captured on YouTube. It's multi-generational, so it's every time you're losing data, you're losing information, it's getting more grainy, it's getting more wonky. So to be able to do things and pretty it up to the point where it's visible, it has that nostalgia look, but it's still good enough in the way that we're manipulating it so that it's a watchable thing, and you appreciate it, right? You appreciate it more for what you have and what you have available to you. And by creating those vignettes, creating those little, into a television, basically, it's that's the way I would want to look at it, watching a documentary about what we're doing. You know what I mean?
We're dealing with a lot of low resolution footage. We're dealing with, in the new doc, so we talk about commercials a lot, and commercials, unfortunately, are not preserved particularly well. I saw, I subscribe to some of these Instagrammers who are VHS collectors, and more, I have a number of these unmarked blank tapes. They were just people were recording movies off TV and stuff like that. These things are gaining value now because people really love to pop into the tape and then see the commercials in between. And that's good in a way, because hopefully some people will start capturing these. There was this woman, I forget where she was out of, maybe Chicago or something. She had several VCRs going. She basically recorded I think 24/7 and years worth of television.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. So hopefully all this stuff is captured. But all this to say, commercials are, I think the term they used was ethereal. Some historians use that term to describe them. But yeah, there's just wasn't a lot of thought into preservation of a lot of them, at least. And so, if I'm digging through archives, primarily YouTube, I'm finding these things, and they're just real ratty. Some were uploaded 12 years ago, and the resolution's 360 by 240.
Fun.
With YouTube compression, and you're like, dude, so I'm using 4K, a 4K timeline, so I'm trying to figure out how, if you drop that into a timeline, it's a little postage stamp, it's this big, and so you have to blow it up, but you can't blow it up too large, and so
otherwise you're literally seeing dots, you're literally seeing pixelization. right?
Yeah. So there's all sorts of tricks with television stuff. It's more fun because you can create TV set, like a TV with a green screen in there, and then key it out, and so the frame could be filled with that. This week I was using movie theaters because some of the stuffs are movies, and so you can have this 3D visual of a full movie theater, and the screen is at the end, and it feels bigger than it actually is because you have that perspective. So that's a technique that seems to be working. So it's been fun, but a lot of the last few docs have been felt very garbagey. Like how do I fix all this stuff up to make it pleasing to watch? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, especially since there's a retrospective aspect to what we're doing in multiple cases here. Going back in time and finding the things that are contemporaneous with what we're talking about is, again, at a higher quality, is a challenge. I think now going forward, based on standards, okay, and the fact that, I could film a whole movie with my freaking camera at this stage.
I don't know why you would, honestly.
No. But
just buy a real camera. Come on.
Yeah, I know.
It's
but
cheaper than the phone. Anyway, that's my counter. That's my big beef when people say shoot on their phone. Although it's true, and the newest iPhone's pretty credible. The beef I have is like you have $1,000 phone of like you could buy a $500 DSLR with a decent glass on it and get a better result.
Right.
So
right.
Anyway,
it's dedicated. It's a piece of electronics that's dedicated to the craft. And why wouldn't you just do that? Right.
I think if you, I mean, there's a case to be made either way. So, like being kind of straddling the world between film production and new media technology, I definitely don't want to be too snobby about stuff because things have to evolve, So.
Right. Well, there's a flexibility with being able to film on that. Again, but it's a different user user system and environment. And I mean, there's pros and cons to everything, right?
Yeah.
So, but if all things being equal, if that's your only way of capturing something and that's what's breaking you from actually making something, go for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's a great starter camera, but I think you should probably graduate to something like a Blackmagic Pocket or something that will get you closer to like narrative filmmaking. We use the phone. If I need to grab B-roll, I'll use my phone. It's like a Pixel 6 Pro. It'll shoot 4K, so.
So Video Dreams, dude, 49 official selections, 24 wins.
Yeah,
dude, and
we're doing it.
We still got a few months ahead of us, right?
Yeah, there's still 16 undecided film festivals. So we have the latest one is Romford Film Festival in London, Essex area, and that is considered a top 50 in the United Kingdom, and that is what some people call it an audience-facing film festival.
What does that mean?
It just means that it's not genre specific or like exploitation or horror, or it's not for like, let's say, the Filmmakers Film Festival, So something like Sin Excess is like steeped in, let's say, academia genre film and probably people who know a lot about production.
Okay.
So like an audience facing fest is like more for the public, more for like people who just really love movies, but maybe are less entrenched. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you could think of like Atlanta Documentary Film Festival like that. It's like that's like an esteemed documentary festival. That's not like some specific thing. Like more underground,
audience focused. Hey, this is a collection of things we find exciting. Boom.
Yeah, because I think even underground film festivals are those are not audience facing because so much of it is about the low budget production and the artistry of it that it becomes, what's the term, meta almost. So, but it's a very good thing because it means that the film is not just a niche thing. Right, it can play at a festival like that. I'm reluctant to use the word mainstream, because I don't think it is. It's an independent film festival, but it's certainly less specific than the underground ones.
Sure. And it's kind of put another feather in the cap of our UK run. It feels like several festivals there really gravitated towards this film, which was really exciting. It's a place I don't think we've gotten that kind of exposure before.
No, I think it's like 6 festivals now. You know, there's Spirit of Independence, Phantasmagoria, Black Sunday was one of the first ones we got into there. Yeah, now Romford and
Cinesex? Is that
yes,
was that there too?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the top genre festival.
Yeah.
So pretty stellar in the UK, and I'm still holding out hope that Raindance will select the film. That's
Yeah.
a big one. That's like a talk about audience facing. That's like BAFTA Academy Award qualifying. So
That'd
that's
be
like
awesome. What's the deadline? Our deadline is irrelevant. When's the announcement for that?
for that one. I think we're at least a month away. Let's see, 16 undecided. Raindance is coming in May 16th.
Okay. And Telly's extended deadline just finished, so I'm sure that's right around the corner too, right?
Yeah, I would imagine it'd probably be almost the same. I would imagine mid to late May. That'll be good. Chicago Underground comes in July 29th. That's another defining one.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. Atlanta Docks Atlanta Underground Film Festival. That's still a top US.
Mhm.
That would move the needle a little bit. And then there's cool ones like Trauma Dance and Scum Dance. And then
It's just, hey, this is a cool one. Scum Dance.
Scum Dance, which is like underground. It's cool. It's underground films, but there's also a caveat. It's like, dude, we're not going to play like intolerant stuff.
Right.
This is like fun underground stuff, you know, gore, nudity, stuff like that. We're not going to play
Sure.
like over like some, you know, horrible stuff, you know. So,
And there's one in New Jersey too, right? Which one's that?
oh, that one, that's supposed to open in May, and that
Okay.
is Smodcastle, which is Kevin Smith's jam. So when that opens, we'll enter that one, and that will be it. And I think that either puts us at 130 exactly or 131, something like that. And I think that'll be a wrap. And there's
Even at 49 official selections right now, at that over that equation, 49 over 130, I am very pleased with that. With
Sure.
this run. I am
Yeah.
extremely pleased with this. I think it's still got room with this last lap that we're on over the summer. And I'm hopeful that some of those bigger ones that we've been hopefully anticipating, there'll be a couple hits there.
It's been very interesting because I don't think we've ever done it quite this way where you know, with VHS Massacre 2 we entered a lot, 60 or 70, but we kind of entered the bulk at once and then added some. This one has been a real game of discovering actually what the film is. So you know, we make the film, we put it out. I think in my head, 2 thoughts. There are 2 wolves in me. One of them is like, this movie is crap. This movie should be at Sundance. 2 opposing views, you know, when the truth is definitely somewhere in the middle. And as you know, the decisions are coming in, we're not getting into a lot of these corporate or studio film festivals. We're not getting into Sundance, Slamdance. We are getting into some of the top genre and horror, top genre and underground. And once that started to happen, and I started to track what was hitting, we then would double down, like, okay, underground's a thing.
Yeah, it's trending in this series of festivals. Why not spend the extra money there? In essence, this is our theater release via the festivals with the official selections when they actually screen it.
And there's this thought of like with a festival run, it's like I've already entered the bulk of them. Do I really want to spend more going down some rabbit hole that may or may not be true? And it was the same thing with the UK. Okay, we're picking up, I think, you know, early on, 2 or 3 UK festivals. I think there's something here. I'm going to enter another 2 or 3. That seemed to work, and it kept working. Underground. Okay, we're doing something. You know, San Francisco Independent, and, you know, we're getting to some of these mid, you know, festivals. Let's push it hard with Underground. Torino Underground was one of the big first, you know, I think it's the top Italian. We hit that, and I was like, okay, interesting, Italian Underground. Okay. And then, so I'm going to double down on that. And then that kept happening, underground, underground, underground. And so like the wonderful thing about the film festival is you really can go, on the film festival circuit probably for 2 years if you really wanted, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Well,
And
you run some risks though too, right? So when we're selecting all these, 130 is the biggest we've ever done. That being said, in a specific location and a selection of specific genre-based festivals, there is the risk of oversaturation, right? In a locale. Case in point is like major metropolitans here in the U.S. You could enter one or two in a metropolitan area, maybe get both of them. But if you do 6 or 7 and some of them are further down the road and it's already hit in 1 or 2 in that location, they may pass on it, right?
yeah,
Because these guys, they all know each other. I'm sure they all on some level talk to each other. They're familiar with each other's festivals. And there is that idea that, I don't want to run the same films that this last festival did, right?
well, yeah, there has to be that. There has to be some communication, and that's not like there's no maliciousness there. It's like exactly what you're saying. It's like, dude, we want to have our own unique brand, and like we gotta figure this out. Like I don't want to play the same. That happened I think that happened in Pennsylvania,
Okay.
where we entered probably like 4 or 5. And it was like not selected, not selected, not selected. And I was like, man, what's going on here? Not to, Pennsylvania, obviously a big state, but I was thinking, God, is it really as intense as like New York City or something,
Right.
And so I think Red Rose was kind of the big one. We got into Red Rose over there. That was one where they gave us a full waiver after we ran it. We ran an email campaign through Film Freeway, and that was the big one. I played in this awesome theater, and I don't have proof, but it's possible that Red Rose was like, we're gonna play this one, and then the other 3 or 4 were like, well, we don't want to play it too, so.
Right. And it's probably maybe not even state specific, but like city specific. If a lot of those festivals ran in or around Philadelphia, say,
Yeah.
then, mirroring some other festival with this screening as well. Maybe not. Although the UK, not huge. We get several people, several different festivals there that give us official selection and actually plays. So it's hard to say. I guess different markets have different sensitivities when it comes to that.
Yeah. It's an odd thing.
It's something you learn doing this, right? It's something you learn every new film that you go through this process with the festival run and the festival circuit. You learn new things every single time, and it just makes us better with the next film we promote through this process. Like, okay, where do we feel like we wasted our money? Where do we think that this thing fits in? Let's think about this as compared to VHS 1 and 2, American Expendables, Video Dreams. Okay, based on all those things, where's this next project going to fit into that mix?
Yeah.
And where do we focus our money, right?
Well, I'll tell you this. Enter the Television, the stock that we're doing about let's say the dark corners of TV advertising and independent television. There's so much of it Chicago based. And I think because it's an advertising hub and all that, but, or it's just whatever. It's just a major city, but I will say this. I think this is a lesson I think that I've learned, and I've had trouble holding to it. But any festival that requires that you haven't had a premiere somewhere else, requires that you haven't played in the same city, like that's in print. We've never gotten into one of those. And we've Dokken is a good example. No sour grapes here, but when the film festival deeply prioritizes premiere status, even if they're a top genre festival or a top underground festival in the world, we've never gotten into those. And actually, it's kind of contrary in what I'm saying is I don't think there are any underground festivals that say we require to be the top premiere status.
Right.
So I think moving forward with Enter the Television, I hope that I can kind of stick to this and just say, if there's a festival that is super snobby about it wanting to be the premiere, I think it's a waste of our time, because, and also the arrogance of that is just astounding. you know?
Because what does it matter? What does it really matter? You know, these are independent films in in many cases that are just trying to get an audience and trying to get, you know, a way to a path of an audience and recognition and ultimate distribution and showing the viability of the film through the course of this journey, this festival run journey. And it's really just about that. And it's unrealistic. It's the same unrealisticness of me hosting my music exclusively on one downloading platform versus anywhere where somebody can get royalty-free music. It makes zero sense to get involved with like I think Artlist does that, where, you know, if you're going to host with them, you have to have an exclusivity. You can only host. I'm like, forget it. Any platform that's like that, forget it. Like it's counterintuitive.
It's awful. It's like, you know, so what I screen in Austin, Texas at the Austin Indie Fest, so I can't have a premiere in New York because I played in Texas. Like it's really pompous, and
it's 2,000 miles away. Like,
like that kind of stuff is, and so I don't mind if they say, like, sometimes you'll see some jargon that will say, hey, look, we, you know, if possible, we like premiere statuses, but that's not gonna, you know, but still enter, like, don't not enter.
Right.
You know, that I'll tolerate that. But like when, you know, something like Sundance is like, we want to be the premiere, Cannes wants to be the premiere. It's like, okay, guys, like, and the problem is, like, if you're some big studio film, maybe you buy a bunch of advertising for the festival and you kind of buy your way in your screening there. But for an independent filmmaker, low budget filmmaker, they're holding your film hostage for like 6 months until the thing comes through.
Right.
And then they don't take it anyway. So I think, you know, for any independent filmmakers out there, I just think you need to see those festivals for what they are. They're just, if like Scooby-Doo, if you pull off the mask, it's just the studio system. It's wearing a film festival skin suit, and you pull the mask off, and it's just the studio system.
Yeah, that sounds dirty.
So I think you put the lotion in the basket. Anyway, I think you're much better looking for, you can still enter the top underground film festivals and genre festivals in the world. But like, I think a lot of the mainstream ones are just, it's not real.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I don't want to sound defeatist or in any way, shape or form, like time is limited or anything with this statement, but it fucking kind of is. So I'm like 51 now. The idea of waiting 6-9 months to start a festival run because one of the festivals has a hair across their butt about being the first place and first right of refusal, I'm kind of like, fuck off. Like, we're going to, like, when we're ready to go on the festival run, whatever one comes first is the one that's coming up next. And
we'll promote it.
Yeah. And
it, you know, if it's possible to be, you know, I haven't gone in person to, a ton of them, only a few have gone in person because that's purely financial, but I've done virtual Q&As and directors talks. I've sent in videos. I do social media promotions. We do videos like this. Any festival we get into, we do serious promotion for ourselves and for the festival, you know? So I think it's all about, I think the underground film festival circuit and genre film festival circuit is where the independent film movement survives. I think that's the community there. And I think, you know, the sooner people own that and realize that, hey, maybe we are the cool kids, and maybe this giant conglomerate that has its tentacles in all the top studio film festivals are just not, it's actually not where the cool kids are anymore, you know?
Yeah. I just like the idea that there's these festivals that are oftentimes bootstrapped. It's a lot of volunteerism. It's a lot of people that have been in industry for decades and making various levels of films and budgets. And they're just looking to promote and enjoy and celebrate independent filmmaking and just films in general. They're good films, whether your budget was micro to no budget to, you know, $500,000, $1 million or more, whatever. Everybody gets a seat at the table if the piece that they come to the table with is worthy of being seen. And I think those festivals and those groups of people that are judging these things and ultimately accepting them into the festivals, those are the people that resonate with us, because that's really what filmmaking and the art making that we do is all about. It's really just about telling as original a story as we can come up with, and things that we're passionate about, things that resonate with us. And, you know, the audience clearly comes every single time based on the run. And it's just that we're getting more and more understanding of how to interpret the festival responses to each individual film. And I really like the fact that you didn't hesitate this time, like, at all. Not that you've done it in the past, but in this case, like, even more so. Like, when you saw those trends, when you saw the fact that underground film festivals or genre-based film festivals were starting to really resonate with and pick up the film, all right, let's just freaking do this. Like, there's no reason to hesitate. Fine, here's another 5.
Yeah.
In the underground. Go.
Well, then there's weird links too. You got to dig into this stuff. Like, one link is actually academia, and like CineXS is aligned with the university system there, Birmingham, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then like Lake County, that's associated with it's played on a college campus, even though that's a mid-sized festival in Chicago greater area. Lake County is not Lake County, Always Late TV Movie Awards was put on, hosted by a community college, although not like an academic program. And when I dug into some of these, there are certain underground film festivals that are actually associated somewhat with historical, archival, or academia. And then there are, of course, scum dances, like we just want to watch, Body Melt or we want to watch Toxic Avenger or something.
Yeah.
So, but seeing those subtle connections and then actually going and researching what film festivals are actually tied into academia, because even that's an interesting idea,
Mm-hmm.
So there's all these, things to explore.
Yeah, and easy rabbit holes to dip down based on how things are resonating and how things are tracking in the whole process. And since we give it, I'd say on average, 12 to 18 months per film, at least with the 4 or 5 documentaries that we've done.
Yeah.
That's plenty. I think that's ample time to see how it's trending in the different subgenres and sub areas of the festival circuit, and then double and triple down in those areas. And I think that's absolutely the way to market every new piece going forward, because
yeah,
you're just maximizing butts and seats and eyes on our work, period.
Yeah. And I think May will be essentially the 1-year mark. I'm pretty sure, if we haven't crossed it already.
Right.
And, yeah. And then like streaming in 2027, maybe February, and we can take it from there. But yeah, so it's been a very, fun experiment,
Yeah. Yeah. I dig it, because we could do it like this. We could do it from home. We could do it like a lot of the work is just us communicating and making this stuff happen. It's just life's complicated. You know what I mean?
You work with what you have,
Yeah.
It's like, with the pilot that we did, it actually was a considerable amount of shooting. You flew up, we did 2 days worth of shooting, one in Astoria, one in Central Park, actually. And then I had, I think, maybe 3 shoots besides that. One with Gary at his house, and then one on Roosevelt Island, and like one other. And you had one down in Florida in addition.
Yeah, just outside of Orlando.
So you had 3
Diane
shoots.
stuff.
Yeah, so you had 3 shoots right there. I had another 3 or 4. So it was like, but Doc is still great, because that's the deal, man. You get prepped. Let's go shoot one day,
Yeah. Yeah. That's the beauty, because then you don't have to worry about continuity issues and did this person change their hair? Are you going to run into a Samurai Cop issue where go back and do reshoots and you got this really hammy wig
with the hat over it?
Like, hey, his hair changed. It's like, well, I mean, that's what's near and dear and endearing to that about that film. But in most cases, it would just look shoddy and unwatchable.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I think that's all I got. What's new on the music front?
Music front, getting out of that 3-4 month, I'm not going to call it a funk. It was like basically semi post 275 track publishing coma, I would say, that just, like, the tank was empty, you know? It's just, I've recently gone back and listened to a bunch of those albums and individual tracks, and I'm like, well, yeah, I forgot about this track. Literally don't remember some of the tracks that I published last year because of the volume. So it's not surprising to me that I haven't seen more usage of some of those because, quite frankly, it was such a rapid fire that third and fourth quarter last year to get to that 1,000 track milestone that I was just really a couple months there. I was releasing like 6 or 7 compilations, and I'm just like, how is this even? How am I producing at this level? This is crazy. And this year, I've resolved myself to listen. If I release 100 tracks this year, which still would be amazing, but if it's only 100 tracks this year, that I think it's much more manageable going forward as far as promoting those individuals, spending like a 3-week period with socials and making people aware of these new tracks that are out, and having more of a focus on that and specific subgenres that I want to explore. New ones too. I mean, the first thing I came out with this year that actually the physical MP3s are going to be available on the website at the end of the month, the last week of the month, is an homage to Arc Raiders. I mean, anybody that's seen any of the social posts that I have or talks that I've had previous to this in the last month or so, it's no illusion that we've been playing that a lot, and I've been enjoying that game tremendously.
Yeah. Great.
So inspired me to make several tracks in that genre, or at least inspired by that genre of game. And I was really happy with them. And I've got some work I'm doing for some meditation Reiki channels, but also some stuff for, tabletop RPG that is in like the Warhammer 40K style of like modern marches and modern orchestration type stuff. So those are really fun. Those I've been interestingly excited about, because it's not really, I've done D&D and orchestrations and stuff and moody things or whatever, and did a whole action orchestration thing last year that I was really proud of. This one hits a little different. This one is very, it's very militant. You can hear like the march of war in them, and it's a little bit more specific and like isolated into that area. So I'm excited to see what comes of those. I've got 3 ideas so far that are mostly developed at this point, but the next couple Monday Fridays are going to be focused primarily on getting that up to maybe like 8 tracks. That's my standard, really. I try to shoot for 8 tracks for every compilation, just because I feel like that's a palpable level without making too many things and then having some things that I perceive myself as being, it's not my greatest work. I like to have a batch of things that are I'm proud to release, right? Not stuff that I'm like, well, I got to get to 8, so these 2 are kind of, sometimes with that I'll stop at 6, and I'll be like, even if this is like a 5 or 6 song EP, like that's enough. Like I've said what I want to say. And then the counterpunch to that sometimes is, okay, I only had 4 or 5 things I wanted to say, but I'm going to say a couple of those things 2 different ways. And I did that on Boardroom, the second corporate album I did. I had 4, maybe 5 main ideas, and then I changed the pacing and some of the instrumentation on a couple of the tracks and made 2, like an alternate version. And I was kind of happy about that, because I know specifically for you, when you grab stuff, sometimes a heavy lead instrument isn't ideal, especially you want to put a bed underneath something.
Yeah.
So I make a version that has a lead that tells a story, and other times it's a very subtle bed-based story that creates a mood, and the actual story is the narrative that's happening in whatever it's being juxtaposed against, So it gets complicated here when you write some of that stuff. Like, you got to remember, like, for this to be functional and usable to folks, you got to think like you're in the editing room with somebody, and whether it's too busy or not. And oftentimes that's why things have to marinate sometimes for me, and I have to like go on walks or exercise or take a bike ride somewhere and just throw my earbuds in and be like, is this working? Is this too much? Is that distracting?
I think you need both, right?
Yeah.
You need to be able to do tracks where you let loose and do exactly what you want and make it as big and loud and operatic as possible, and you do that. But then you also have more subtle tracks. So I actually like the difference because, we as filmmakers, we always need both.
Right. I've been playing around this year too with actually doing some vocal based stuff too. So
That's cool.
it's been a while since I've done stuff with that. But I'm also thinking that it's not part of the core. It might be like, that sounds weird, but it's like an alternate persona that creates this stuff, and it's in this different bucket. So, and I also think that maybe the songs themselves would have a place in two places, because again, a song that has the ability to integrate vocals into it could exist on its own as an instrumental piece. So maybe a version that's instrumental and a version that, is what I lovingly call throated.
Right. Yeah.
Which has basically, says what it means. It's got some actual human voice integrated into it. There's one or two tracks I have that have that. There's patches that I play that are mostly angelic type of things for like meditation and stuff like that, but and chanting and choirs and stuff. But like real human voice, like mine or samples or something, there's only one or two tracks in that 1,000+ catalog I have that has that. But I kind of feel like that's something different than royalty free stuff, because that's more utilitarian, right? It's more of a utility has a different flavor, more score based and background based.
Yeah,
So,
that sounds like a great plan, man.
Yeah.
You have a instrumental version, you have a throated version.
Yeah, then people use what they want. And the vocals are too much. Okay, I really like the vocals. I want to use that in this stuff. Great.
Well, I could definitely see a situation where you would cross fade into each other. There could be a scene where there's dialogue going on, and then the dialogue's finished, and then you cross fade into the vocalized one, and people really need that kind of stuff,
Yeah, I'm even thinking about, from a nostalgia standpoint, it's just kind of fun idea and a fun prospect. That first song that comes on when the credits run, that was always like, okay, there was some big deal made with some producer or director or whoever the person, the sound manager for the entire film, and it's like, all right, this is the song that people are going to leave the theater with, that kind of thing. And the 80s was classic for that. Like, it just had that atypical, like, everybody rock tune or everybody pop tune.
Right. Breakfast Club type stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the outro tune, right? In that nostalgia where, and the lyrics were often, especially like in the mid-budget or low-budget comedies and action films and stuff, had I don't want to say it was, I don't want to pick on them too much. It wasn't that they're nonsensical lyrics, but they're just kind of vapid, right? But
yeah,
that's an appeal that exists for nostalgia purposes, because looking back and listening to those things, you realize that's exactly the feeling you got. It was just kind of this like, yeah, it was fine. It would be fun to make those. I mean, I'm not really selling it by saying it like
no,
this.
I think I know. Yeah, but it's just like the ending song to Karate Kid or like Teen Wolf or like that sort of like pop emotional, the voice in there. Or are we even talking about like Batman Kiss from a Rose, Seal, or that kind of stuff? Or I don't know if we're talking in that. Like,
I mean, that's even a little too refined.
Right.
I'm talking about like these second or third tier bands that, like, that was their job. They wrote these pop tunes, they wrote these rock tunes, and the song, you can't place its name and you can't place the name of the band. Like, it eludes you, but you're like, yep, every time I go and watch, Real Genius, as that freaking song ends. Yeah. I mean, that one's easy enough. That's Everybody Wants to Rule the World is from Tears for Fears.
Yeah. That's Tears for Fears, right?
But that's a bad example. But like a movie that had a budget like that would oftentimes have a no-name band, or
Yeah.
no offense to the band, but like, they were coming up, and that was a way for them to become discovered, because that you leave the theater listening to them. It's just it's an interesting idea, interesting prospect. I keep having this recurring thought about my idea at the beginning of the year doing a physical release LP, an actual vinyl,
Mm-hmm.
and doing that at some point this year. It was originally going to be planned for the first quarter, but man, this year got crazy busy, not just from an administrator perspective, but like all around personal, doing the stuff with the movies with you and everything else. So I'm like, and also the extended period that I thought that I need personally for a break in writing. I was like, yeah, I need to regroup, and I need to recharge everything. So, but now I'm starting to get some really cool ideas. I've got on my list, I'm looking behind me because I've got my list on the wall, opposite, perpendicular to here. But my standards, like D&D, the lo-fi, all that stuff that I've done, I'm sure I'll revisit some of those this year. But I haven't done polka, and I've been talking about doing polka for a few years.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I thought that would be fun. There's also on this list, prog rock. I was thinking about doing like a real honest to goodness prog rock, where, like true prog rock, like Dream Theater and stuff. Like oftentimes there's some of those tunes, they just go on a journey, and some of those subsections of the song, they never come back to, right? It's like a classical piece, like an old school classical piece may not revisit themes and just kind of go on this path, and then it's like, here's the story, I'm just telling you a story. So definitely interested in that. I found a website recently. Let me see if it's on my other tab here, because I do want to mention this, because I was fascinated by this. It's called everynoise.com, and it literally just has text on it, and there what looks like thousands of subgenres of music, and you click on any one of the texts, and it literally starts playing a piece that's supposedly representative of that subgenre. But I think it's a brilliant way to discover something that I might not have been exposed to, because honestly, where do we get new music ideas today? If you go to Spotify or you go to Apple Music or Amazon, you're going to get mostly mainstream or whatever is being advertised to get put in your face, not these micro independent bands that, honestly, back in my 20s and late teens, I found that all from listening to WHUS, the Stores radio from Yukon, or like the one from Central Connecticut. I mean, that's where friends and other fellow students would be like, yeah, I went to this freaking music festival and I found this band, and he just starts playing it on an overnight or something. And then that's how I learned about Korn before Korn was mainstream.
Yep. Yeah. In college. Yep.
Yeah. So
Grotus and Korn. All these.
Yeah. Grotus. I forgot about those guys.
Yeah. There's some good ones in there. Yeah. Right.
Motograder. That was a big one. That's the lead singer of them ended up going on to being with Five Finger Death Punch or something. So, but like stuff like that, like you just don't stumble across that stuff as much anymore, because a lot of people don't listen to terrestrial radio. I mean, at least I don't. I know people, I've gotten into cars with people and they're listening to regular radio. I'm like, what's that? You know what I mean?
I happen to hear it because Steph plays it in the morning to get a routine going. There's like a momentum for it. So she'll have Alexa play like, what is it? 101? I forget. It's
like a local station?
Yeah. It's the, is it Elvis Duran in the morning? It's one of the main stations. And
God, I haven't listened.
There's something comforting about it, actually, because like when you're getting up and you're doing a routine, it adds some momentum. And then also in the cafeteria at the college I work at, they always have the radio on.
Yeah.
So I actually get, so I get a few times a day, I get some radio in my day, which is, I don't actively listen to it. I mean, there's virtually nothing I would listen to on there. Cafeteria plays mostly like 80s and 90s music, and Elvis Duran is like all over the place, just kind of pop, whatever they feel like.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing is, if it's a certain genre, like these, I could tolerate for sure. Modern pop, a lot of it, I don't really gravitate towards, and it doesn't resonate with me as much. It sounds like Honestly, it sounds like stuff from 20 years ago. Just the same. That somebody would argue like, it's bullshit. It's like a different thing now. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, it just doesn't do anything for me. Doesn't move me, and it's just not my thing. But my biggest discouragement with terrestrial radio has always been the commercials and just sitting through, over and over again, just commercial. I'm just like, I'm done with that. So I'd rather pay a service, the streaming service, or discover it on my own, discover online and find sites like the one I mentioned earlier and just explore new genres and do the digging on my own and create a playlist accordingly, So, but yeah, definitely got some exciting stuff coming down the pipeline. I think this month and next month's going to be a lot of ideation. And then, there'll be an album or two released between now and the end of May. And then it'll probably ramp up a bit for a while because I think multiple months of putting down ideas, I'm going to refine those over the summer and release as I go. But I temper expectations, probably closer to 100, maybe a little bit more, depending upon if I do variations of the tracks that I release for utility and functionality of the end user and stuff. But definitely not on pace to do 200 to 300 this year. Absolutely not. I don't think I have the energy or the capacity to do that. Not at this stage. I might get another surge at some point, depending on how I feel and how creative I feel or whatever. But I think a pace of like 1 to 150 a year is probably going to be more realistic and more tenable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah. I think that's gonna be great, man.
Yeah.
Give you time to treat the album some run up and some,
And
PR.
really dive into a little more post production because I'm my biggest critic of myself. So some of the stuff I've done in the past, I felt like I could have made these two instruments a little less muddy against each other. So that's some other stuff I'm going to develop going forward too. It's just cleaner mixes, just more harder hitting, transitions and just taking people on better journeys. So less but better,
Yeah.
That's the idea. So more to come. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
That's basically it for me, dude. But yeah, that, and we just need some rain down here. So why don't you give me all those rain showers you're getting up there for this?
Looks like we're gonna rain soon over here.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. Well, this has been fun. Thanks for having me. And
yeah, dude.
we'll see you next time.
Right. Later.